Welcome to another exciting episode of Triple Tap. This is episode number 23. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay out there. We do have a little bit of feedback tonight, so we'll see how we go. But welcome, Kent. Welcome, Lance. How are you both this evening? And how's your week been, guys? Kent, we'll start with you this week.
Yeah, look, a massive week for Australia. Look at what's going on with the weather for starters. Everyone's keeping a close eye on that. It's been a huge week for our state governments, and their crazy unlawfulness continues as they try to make laws to silence doctors, because let's face it, they are all very, very scared of the doctors who are waking up and who are banding together. I am hearing of meetings of doctors in pubs, in halls, all over the place, getting together to say this isn't good enough. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And Lance, how's your week been? Feels like it's been ages since I spoke to you.
Look, yeah, it's been an awesome week. And I'm going to say I haven't been on Triple Tap much lately, but I don't feel guilty about that because Kim does such a good job of stepping in for me. And I sometimes feel a little guilty maybe that I'm taking her spot. So I'm happy to be here. Lots of excitement, and really, really looking forward to this guest tonight, I can tell you, because when it comes to putting an importance against people, this gentleman's one of the finest. So I'm really privileged to be here tonight.
Excellent, Lance. And we are definitely glad that you're back in the hot seat. So welcome both to Kent and Lance. So look, we'll get underway. Every now and then you meet the most incredible, kind-hearted, funny and inspiring people who know their craft and who make the world a better place simply by being in it, and give you hope to keep going and keep fighting the good fight. This gentleman, Mr. Spiros Kalotihos, I hope I pronounced that right, spent the first 20 years avoiding the law, the next 20 years immersed in it, and foresees his next 20 years unraveling it. While Spiro started his career as a motivational protege, being flown to New York to train high-profile businessmen in the art of sales techniques, he soon identified the need for the legal system to be accessible for small businesses and established a law firm offering free legal services to members. Who would have thought? A free legal service to members. The firm also designed and manufactured the first pinhole down-the-line transmission cameras and offered these state-of-the-art security surveillance cameras to the business members, which resulted in a large file footage library. This footage library became the first caught-on-camera TV series arriving in Australia and New Zealand. The company also had a prominent private investigation department, eventually released as its own TV series, Private Eyes, which aired worldwide. The company's technology department also brought face recognition software to Australia soon after 9/11. Spiros left the legal world in 2002 to focus on property development. However, in 2020, he was drawn back and now spends much of his time on human rights issues. Recently, he issued proceedings against DHHS Mr. Brett Sutton over their COVID response, and APRA in the New South Wales Supreme Court for doctors who were having their licenses arbitrarily suspended. And hopefully we're going to get to have a real good chat with Spiros Kalotihos tonight about the Brett Sutton case and the Perigian case, and how that certainly has an impact on doctors around Australia. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure and honour to welcome to the call tonight Mr. Spiros Kalotihos. Spiros, are you there? Turn your camera on and let's get chatting, my friend.
Greetings. How is everybody?
totally
Yeah,
awesome.
fantastic, mate. Sorry, no, you go ahead, Ainsley.
Oh, no, we're just saying, no, we're great. And we're looking forward to having a chat with you tonight and finding out a bit more about the cases that you've been working on and the impact that they're having in the community. Because I know one of them you're still waiting for an answer. And I think it's been 19 weeks or something now, isn't it?
Yes, we're getting into, I think we're up to 21 now, but it won't be long. We'll get an answer. I don't want anybody to freak out if the answer isn't in the first instant the one we want. Often it's not, especially on something as significant as what we're doing, but that's okay. It's part of the way it's played. But I will have an answer, and when I do, I'll let you know.
And that was the Brett Sutton case, wasn't it, Spiros?
Yes, that's the case against this the COVID nonsense that's sparked. I think obviously it's bigger than COVID now, but COVID was the was I guess the first salvo from the other side, and but it's blown into so much more since then. But in any event, yes, let's just see how we go. But in the meantime, there's plenty of other cases, and they're all going to have a resolution. So, you know.
And why do you think they're taking so long to make a decision on your case, Spiro? What impact will that have? What your case have?
Well, it depends on the result. Well, it doesn't. The result is going to end up being the result we want sooner or later, because the facts are the facts, and we'll go into that when we feel like it later in the show. But look, it takes time to get a ruling on any day. It isn't unusual to wait 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks or even longer. 21, 22 weeks is starting to get a little bit into that, outer space zone. But look, we're going to get it. It's normal. No need to freak out. But at the same time, it is a significant case. So I'm imagining they're taking their time going through it very thoroughly, because the answer will be in writing, and then it'll be there for all to see. And so it has to be word perfect. So I expected it to take some time and to be rather voluminous when it comes in.
So if we could get on to another subject, I love the simple little projects, and let's not say they're little, because some of these things are huge and monumental. The work you and Darren Bergsworth are doing down in Victoria with the People's Council and the People's Trust of Victoria. Could you tell us all a little bit about how those two projects are working?
Yes, the council is my favourite at the moment. That's my favourite topic, because I think it's the way forward. I think really my message, well, the only thing that I'm really doing, when you boil it all down, the only thing I'm really doing is showing people how to fight back. Not just talking about it, but saying, well, is anyone doing it? And then now you can point at me and say, well, yeah, there's a guy, he's fresh out of nowhere, he's doing it. He's showing you how to do it. And so litigation is fine, but most of the people don't want to spend their time in a courtroom. And I thought, well, what can normal people do? What can we all do just sitting at home in our own house to just simply fix what I perceive as broken? And the answer is, take back control of your own suburb, one suburb at a time. And that's how we came up with the idea of just electing your own mayors. When I say came up with the idea, rehashed the original idea of the Constitution of Australia. We just simply went back, dusted off the book, as you know, dusted it off, flipped open to the page that was relevant, and said, oh, that's how you do it. Oh, well, that's pretty easy. And then I set about saying, well, then let's do it. Let's do one. Let's vote in a mayor. Let's vote in the Treasury. Let's actually get a council up and running. And then people can come and see how easy that is and say, well, can we open up our own council in our own suburb and stop listening to this nonsense? And I'm like, yes, you can do anything you want. We're all free. And so I lead by example. So that's my favourite. The trust, well, that was another thing. That was that's more, I think the trust is serving more a role of giving people the feeling that they can actually do something about the bills and the invoices that they get. Because, you get invoices all the time from all these so-called government departments are nonsense, but that's what they call themselves. And people don't know what to do, and so they keep doling out the money. I thought, well, it might be a good idea if we stop feeding them. Don't feed the weak, as I say. So that's how the trusts came up. We only need 8. We need 1 in every state, and they can handle all of the workload. And so we're doing that. So we're setting up the trusts to sort of address this drain of money that's going to these corporate entities. And we're setting up our own councils in every suburb we can. Anywhere I can find someone with enough guts to be the mayor, that's harder than you think. But wherever we find somebody, we jump on them and we convince them that that's what they should do with their lives. And so that's my 3 things: sue anybody I can, stop feeding the weed, and set people up with their own council so I don't have to do this anymore. And then I can go back to the chickens and the farm.
Excellent. And just for our listeners out there, we've People's Trust Victoria has been set up, People's Trust Queensland has been set up, People's Trust South Australia, and People's Trust New South Wales, still working on WA, Northern Territory and Tasmania. So if you're interested in any of those, reach out and we'll put you in contact with the people that can help you with the information that you need for those.
Okay, so what's the mechanics behind setting up a People's Council?
You need a minimum of 3 people. It's no different to setting up any corporate entity or any entity at all. You need 3 people. 2 will gridlock, obviously, if you don't agree. So you need a 3rd person. You always need a 3rd wheel, or the 13th warrior. You always need that. And so we need a volunteer, some upstanding member of the community who's prepared to put their hand up to be the mayor. Now, the mayor's the guy or the girl who goes around, shakes hands, holds the meetings, keeps control of what's going on. That's the job of the mayor, kissing babies, all that sort of stuff. That's what mayors do. You need a treasury because there's money involved. So we need somebody who focuses on just logging and recording the finances for all the obvious reasons. You can't give it to the mayor, can't trust it. And you need a litigation department because there's going to be trouble. And when there's trouble, then you're always going to have to call upon your litigation department. Now, I put my hand up for that, obviously, because that's my skill set. So in order to form a council in any suburb, we need 2 volunteers, apart from me. We need a mayor and we need a treasurer. And if we can find those 2, well, mate, we can set up our own councils, and they are perfectly legitimate entities and can actually go about looking after the community and doing whatever the community wants them to do, which is what a council is supposed to do.
So they could build a bridge. If they needed to build a bridge, they could build a bridge.
You can build a bridge. You can blow the one that's there now up. You can do anything as long as the people vote for it. Because a proper meeting, it's like in the Westerns. That's probably where I got the idea from. It's like in the Westerns, where you all go to the church, when there's trouble in the town, and everybody gets a say, and the mayor's up the front with a couple of other hoons, that it's a bit like Blazing Saddles. It's like, we need a new sheriff, and then you call the governor and you get a new sheriff, and it's as simple as that. I know it just sounds crazy because everybody wants some new modern solution to an old problem, but it's just that simple. Go back to having communities. It's the complete antidote for globalism. Go back to communities. Go back to people Go back to face-to-face meetings. Have cups of tea, lamingtons. That's what it's all about. And if it solves so many problems, doesn't it? I mean, I know I'm going off the track because I'm passionate, but it solves so many problems. People are lonely. Not if you've got once a week meeting. You can just go. You don't need to be a sportsman. You can just be a little old, retired person with not much to do, and you turn up to your Wednesday night meetings and you sit there with your crochet. I've seen it happen. I've been to meetings where ladies turn up and they're doing their crocheting and, in the seat as they're listening to the council meeting. And I'm thinking, well, that's what it is. That's community. Either you can wait until it's written in the newspaper, or you can actually go and live it. You can actually go and be part of the community that votes for something. So I'm in favour of the latter.
Yeah, so when you look at organisations like Common Law Australia, the TAP satellite communities, all these other good movements that have formed, they're perfectly situated to establish their own council.
You'd think, but mate, since I've been trying to do it for the last 2 months and I've had one success, like not a great record, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out where's the weak spot. The weak spot, as always, is the leader. And it's finding that personality, that one person who most of the time won't put their hand up because they're the right person for the job. The right person for the job, bloody is the last one to put his hand up because he always thinks somebody else is better than he is. And that's usually wrong. In the past, we, the people, would force leadership on the best person in the village. If you think about it, we didn't wait for them to put their hand up and say we wanted to be the leader. It was always the other way around. We would go to the house of the person we knew was the most competent and ask them to be the leader and say, you go and talk to the Queen. You go and represent us because you're the most educated one or whatever. I'm starting to think I'm looking in the wrong spot. Maybe I need to go into the retirement villages. Maybe I need to get someone with some old skill and plenty of time on their hands, who say, look, I've got some knowledge and I've got nothing better to do all day than sit around and, stare at the TV. But that's my weak spot. My weak spot is they don't volunteer for this job. This is a job that's thrust upon you. And we Aussies, we're laconic. It's not our thing to be out there beating a drum, we sit in the corner picking our teeth, watching the whole thing happening. That's another obstacle I have to overcome. Bloody Aussies, but we'll get there. It's just a matter of time. We'll get there. We have to find them. The people are going to have to find them and push them to the front, and then we'll inaugurate them and say, "That's it. You're the mayor." Whether you like it or not.
Spiros, we certainly found those people that you're looking for in the common law societies around Australia. When the Australia Project first started, and we come up with the idea to flood our politicians and our doctors and the chemists with letters, the common law groups of Australia responded with over 30,000 recorded letters written. And we suspect probably a lot more than that because the letters, a lot of them were just sent and weren't recorded. We certainly got reams and reams of paper and complaints from doctors and chemists coming back. And I'm certainly finding that the common law people are get interested in common law, they're interested in the law, they're taking the time to train themselves in it, and they seem to be of that age where they might have some time on their hands. So maybe that's a solution.
Yes, well, I'll take anything because at the moment I've got zilch. So
Right.
beggars can't be choosers. Bring them on. I'll take whatever you got. You're old, you're tired. One leg, that's okay. We don't need 2 legs. I'll take them with 1 leg, half an arm. Anything I can get at this point. Anything I can get.
So 2 volunteers, a treasurer and the person to be the mayor.
Yep.
And then the legal department. Is that easily enough to do because you've got so much skill? And I'm well aware of how well organised and how capable you are. Are you suggesting, did I hear that correctly, that you can handle that legal department for those councils?
Yes, that's not an issue. The legal department is, it's better if we have one. Look, I say that as if I know what I'm talking about. I think it's better if we have one centralised legal department where all the problems come to, and then we disseminate it out. There's something in my mind that says that's logical, but I don't write the rules. It might be that every town will just appoint their own local solicitor. If he puts his hand up and says, "No, I can read a book as good as Spiros," I'll volunteer as the legal department of the local council of Shepparton or wherever, and that works every bit as well for me. I don't need it. I just wanted to say, look, I'll volunteer. You need 3. I'll take one of the oars. Can I have 2 more, please? 2 more, rather than saying we need 3. I thought 2 was easier. That was my trick.
What sort of problems do you foresee coming with it? What sort of challenges?
None whatsoever. The whole structure is just going back to the way we used to be. You have a town, you appoint a mayor, everybody gets a say on what goes on in the town, majority rules, turn up to the meeting, put up your hand, vote for what you want. You end up creating the town that you need to have. Now, if you like Harley Davidsons, you're not going to go and live in a hippie town. You're going to say, look, they don't like my Harley. I'm going to go move into Harley Davidson town. And there will be a town called Harley Davidson town, I'm imagining. And there'll be a town called Hippie Town. And there'll be a town called Dog Town and Cat Town and Budgerigar Town. And people will start to form communities with like-minded people, which I think is awesome, because then you get a concentration of knowledge, so that those who like Harleys, you end up with all these people who are interacting on something they're passionate about. And I'm like, when was the last time we went out with people who were passionate about something? We tend to be friends with people sometimes that we have nothing in common with, just because they live in the street. And I'm like, well that's not right, you know? And so I'm thinking, if this takes off and people warm to it, I can see communities growing all over Australia that are just something, you know, and they'll even be like a tourist thing where you'll actually go and say, believe it or not, everybody in this town has shutters on their homes, like Thomastown, because they all have shutters on their homes. So, you know, it's like, you know, I mean, in Christmas, there's a place in Melbourne where the streets all light up. The people, they go out and they put Christmas lights up, and you can't walk down the streets. The jams, police come, there's traffic jams everywhere. They've got Mr. Ice Cream machines there. I mean, it turns into a festival, and that just happened by itself. Where year after year, the neighbours competed with Christmas lights, and now it's a bloody event. And I'm like, nobody organised it. Nobody's getting paid to do it. They just go out there, and it's a bit of pride, and they all just, you know, create this lit up, you know, fanciful Christmas display. And I'm thinking, well, there you go. There's an example of people just doing one little thing, and it brings a community. And here where I live in Dalesford, it's the same. You know, every weekend we're packed up here. There's a market, and there are, you know, and there's natural springs. I mean, I get it that it's because we have something to offer. You know, there's spring water and fresh air, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just the people. You know, I went to a steam engine show last week in Dean. I mean, you know, it was great because there were steam engines, and then how often do you see a steam engine? But anyway, so yes, you need, but they can be, you can have 7, you can have 5, you can have 15, but you can never have an even number.
Can I bring it back to the council, Spiro, because I've got some questions coming from our viewers. If you can just keep the answer short so we can get through this. Do you mean, one question is, how are the councils funded?
The councils is funded by voluntary work in the beginning, and then at every meeting, when the council needs money, the council asks the members of the community to fund the council, because it's the community running the community. You're not employed by a third party.
Okay, another question. Does the whole town need to be on board for the People's Council, and how does it work alongside our already existing corrupt councils?
Right. You do not need a 100% membership. You need 3. Anything more than 3 is a bonus. If 20 people join, 50 people join, you have a community of 50. 100, you have a community of 100. That's how it goes. Now, as far as how it works at the moment, you don't interfere with the running of the system at the moment, because we don't know who runs that system. I mean, these are corporations. They own their own buildings. You know, you don't go in there storming buildings. That's not what we're about. Let them run their business. Good on them. What we're trying to do is start fresh. Start with real people, real elected representatives, real issues that the actual community is interested in, and it solves itself. E.g., if you came to me with a pothole in the middle of the street, and let's say that was something we wanted to deal with, I mean, think about it. We'd say, okay, there's a pothole. How do we deal with it? All right, we need some material. All right, someone might have some. If not, we'll buy it. Treasury might have $50. If not, we all contribute $1. I mean, it's as simple as that. I run a body corporate because I'm a developer. I have my own gated community. 250 people reside in my town, which isn't well. So I guess I'm effectively the mayor of my own town and the treasurer and the litigation department of my own. I'm a one-man town, but right. So accidentally, I ended up with my own town. Well, everything is run like a body corporate. If there's a problem in my village, somebody reports it, and then usually I have to go and do something about it. So I go to the treasury, I get whatever money I need. I believe there was a plumbing leak this week. There you go. We had a plumbing leak this week. I organised the plumber. He fixed the leak. We paid the plumber. It's all part of your outgoings.
Yeah.
How easy did I solve the village problem on that day? It just isn't that hard, Ainsley. I know it sounds like it is because that's the trick, but running a village isn't hard. It's simple. We all have simple needs.
I think there's a lot of good questions coming in because a lot of people are very interested in the councils. So the next question is, what if the existing government council tell you to stop acting as council? And what if the government tries to say it is not legitimate?
Well, number one, the existing council can say whatever they want because it's a free country and we live in a free country. It's free for them as well. So thank you very much. Free speech is free speech. So I have no more to say about that. And as far as the governments are concerned, well, you've got to bring me a government. So bring me someone who's actually an elected politician, and bring me the law that they want to raise that prohibits me from doing what I'm doing, and I'll happily abide. But up until now, they haven't been able to, which is why we have a litigation department to make sure that everything we do is within the constitution of this country and, as far as we're aware, lawful. We're not a vigilante group. We're just concerned people who are sick and tired of passing off the running of our suburb to some corporation that we can't control. Because that's the truth. That's the true English. We are allowing a corporation that we can't control to run our suburb because we're all too what? Lazy to get involved ourselves? Well, maybe we're not. Maybe we're not too lazy. But if we are, that's okay. Status quo.
What does the council do? Sorry, Lance. What does the council do about insurance issues if there's any that arise from the new work that the council does?
Well, the council is only okay. Number one, we can only really handle. We can only work on things that are common property. We can't work on someone's private property unless they allow it. So legally, insurance is covered. When you're on private land, you're covered by that person's insurance. When you're on Crown land, the work you do is covered by the tradie that you hire. And so other than that, you're on Crown land. It's Crown land. If a kangaroo jumps in front of your car on an open freeway, it's what happens when you live in Australia.
It's bad luck. So, and so look, it's way more simplistic than what a lot of people think, because the reality is that the councils have made everything so complex. So we look at it and think, gee, that'd be hard to take over. We don't have to take over their complexity. We have to take it back to the basics. We have to take it back and say, well, what services do we require? We need our rubbish collected, right? We need our roads maintained. We need the parks clean and organised. The council's involved in all this other stuff, and I'm going to call all this other stuff the bullshit. All the other stuff they're doing is about control, how they control our life through bullshit, unlawful legislation. Right? It doesn't have the force of law behind it, but we buy into the narrative. Oh, we've got to do this. We've got to follow the town plan. We don't have to follow the town plan. You own your land. You've got the building code of Australia. Go and build what you want. That's the reality. But they bully one person and everyone says, oh, they beat that person because that person didn't understand their rights. They never had a legal team in their people's council, lawful, someone administering the law for them, and everything falls to bits. This is a system of negotiating with the corporate grubs until you can actually get in a position to take over. Is that correct?
Well, believe it or not, spot on. If I can add, I'm just going to add to that because that I couldn't have said it better. I'm not even going down that path of taking them on because it dawned on me that all I need to do is ignore them because they're just a corporation. They have every right to be there. They have every right to be there. I mean, I live next to a forest. I just ignore the animals that irritate me. I don't have to go out and kill or tell every animal to behave, but I do control my dog because I'm like, okay, my dog's mine, but all the other animals pretty much Mother Nature controls them. So if they want to land on my roof and play with my antenna, well, you know what? That's what cockies do. That's the way it goes. I don't need to go out and change the world. I just need to change my little piece of it. And if everybody feels the same, then they'll realize just how powerful they are. They don't need to be geniuses. You don't have to be Bill Gates. You just have to say, you know what, Bill, go ahead and run the rest of the world. Who cares what you do? But, you know, we Spartans, we have a saying, this is Sparta. I don't give a shit what you do outside, but this is Sparta. And that's all. You're all going to make your own Spartas. Just draw the line in the sand, and I can tell you where it is, and you already know because we've discussed it, but it's in a little something called fee simple. So it's all in fee simple. And for those of you who aren't savvy like us, fee simple on your certificate of title, there's the words fee simple, which means you own your land in fee simple. Now, what that means in English, and I'm talking Old English when it was originally written, it means that except for the Crown, and I mean the actual Crown, nobody can tell you what to do on your property. That's it. No permit required. No permit required. In fact, actually, Magna Carta says not even the king can set foot on your land without your leave. And I'm like, do you know that, people? Do you understand? Nobody can tell you what colour to paint your house, how tall your grass has to be. You can write any code you want. But if my queen hasn't signed it, it doesn't apply to me, as you well know. And so those rules that our queen has agreed to, we're all going to honour because we pledged allegiance. But the rest of it is, as you say, nonsense. And it doesn't need to be any more than that. We don't need to educate everybody to be five-star generals. Just realise nonsense when you hear it. Go back to being Aussies. Call bullshit. That's what we're good at. Call bullshit. Bullshit. That's it. It's bullshit. It just doesn't have to be any smarter than that and have another sip of your beer. That's it. Move on. Don't fight everybody on you.
I called it bullshit with my council recently, Spiros. They demanded that I hooked up to town water because town water was within 100 metres of my house that I'm building. I said, I'm not doing it. They said, well, we're going to fine you. I said, well, good luck doing that. And I handed them a copy of the letter that the Attorney General wrote advising that, yes, councils actually have no authority under law in this country because we never gave it to them. And so I explained that to him, handed him a copy of the letter, and he said, this was the council inspector. He said, I don't know what's going on in this country. This is the third one of these I've been handed this year. I haven't heard a pip out of him or the council. I went ahead and installed a 100,000 litre rain tank, and I will not be paying the money to the state utility company because they haven't supplied me the water to outside my house. So it was going to cost me $25,000 to take it down the footpath, and it was only $10,000 for the 100,000 litre rain tank. The next thing I did was I pushed around more than 1,000 cubic metres of dirt on my soil without asking the council's permission. And the council inspector told me I couldn't do that either. And I said to him, do you want another copy of the letter?
I know.
He got in his ute and drove away.
It's crazy because it just sounds too simple. You don't even, I mean, the letter's handy, but you don't even need the letter because at the end of the day, when you turn up to any courtroom, and no one is doing it because we didn't, but we are now because the world has changed. It's a different playing field today.
It is.
But You turn
Yes,
up
it
to
is,
a
yeah.
courtroom and you just simply say, Your Honour, unless this fellow has a law that was correctly passed through Parliament, and you need a Parliament for that, and secondly, was assented to by my Queen, it doesn't have any business in this courtroom. You can't hear the case. It's not even a case of guilty or not guilty. You can't hear a law of another land. We can't hear Chinese laws. We can't hear German laws. We can only hear Australian laws. And there's a method that makes them. And they all come from acts. And there's a method that creates an act. And if the method isn't followed, you are totally correct. And it can't be followed because my Queen is smart enough to know what in fee simple means. I mean, she knows what that means. Her advisors are way smarter than I am. There's probably somebody old enough who actually invented the term, working for her. I don't know, probably. So, who knows? But yeah, so that you can't write a law that impinges in fee simple. That just makes perfect sense. Nor can you write a law that goes against our Constitution. So how many laws are left? I mean, there's not many you can write when you take out, you can't tell anybody what to do with their life and you can't tell anybody what to do with their property. Well, what do you got left? Space.
Well, I'll tell you what, the state government of Queensland and of a few of the other states and the federal government of Australia are having a crack at a couple of laws at the moment. One of those laws is that if doctors spread disinformation, and you're going to love this, and I know you know it, the term disinformation gives APRA, a corporate-funded non-government body, the ability to decide what is and what is not disinformation. And the next thing is if they're found guilty of disinformation, a $60,000 fine or 3 years in jail. Next thing, in Queensland, they've decided to give police the authority to enter your house without a warrant if they think you're infected with a disease. No order, no health order, no nothing. Remove your children, forcefully vaccinate them if they think that's necessary, strip you to your absolute nakedness. I wonder how many laws they're breaking by pretending that this is real. Like, I actually want to do a count on that, but the Magna Carta would seem to be one of them. The Constitution of Australia certainly doesn't allow that. The Crimes Act of Australia says that they are crimes. And the federal law of Australia utterly supersedes any state law. So where do you see these things going, mate? It's got a lot of people worried, but when you look into it, the truth of it is these premiers, mate, they're digging their own jail term, their own cell, and building it for themselves. That's my opinion. What's your opinion?
My opinion is that everything that you quoted is correct. You're not allowed to interfere with a human being in Australia, period, unless that human being, or you have probable cause to believe that human being is committing a criminal offence or on their way to committing a criminal offence. That's the two. You got to be committing it, or you got to be en route to committing it. That's it. Now, any police officer, which, by the way, let's get it straight, we're talking corporate employees, security guards, that's all they are. Any one of these people lays a hand on you, it is exactly the same as if you're in a nightclub and one of the big Maoris big black Maoris security guards puts a hand on you. You have all the same rights. Your rights don't disappear just because some knucklehead corporate person says they do. At the end of the day, you can't be touched. It's assault. If they physically touch you, it's battery, grievous bodily harm, false imprisonment. I could go on. You were correct. You quoted the right places. That's where you find the actual laws. But it's a common law right that a free person is allowed to be free. And if you take into consideration that, the fact that your property is private, what right does anybody have to access your property? And the answer is zero, unless you're committing a criminal offence or about to commit a criminal offence. They are the justifiable reasons, or what we call probable cause. So you need to charge people when they do the wrong thing. You need to do to you what you need to do what they're doing to you. Think about it. How are they beating you? They're charging you and dragging you into a court of law. Well, then what's the remedy for that? Good for the goose, good for the gander. I can't stress how crazy it is that people think that they can be touched, pushed around, their children can be grabbed, and it never dawns on them that they should have criminal proceedings issued against whoever touched their children, as if because you have a badge, you're allowed to snatch my child and traumatize them. What mad person thinks that's a law that's justifiable anywhere in any society in a free country? In a free country, excluding countries we're aware where they have different structures, and I get it. There are people living in Australia who have come from other places. I understand. You don't have the benefit of laws, but we're in Australia. This is Sparta.
We're in Australia.
We're Australians. This is Australia. We're not Chinese. We're not North Koreans, okay? I know we have people from there, but now they're here. Now they're in Sparta, and we have laws that protect people, not punish people. Every law that punishes you is unlawful because it's against the Constitution. You can't write a law that's not for the people. It's in the first two lines. By the people, for the people. If it's not for you, it's void. I mean, jeepers, you know, how black and white does one have to yell that out from the top of it, you know?
The things you're talking about are the exact things that I was trained in when I went through my police training. And they were the laws that I followed while I was a police officer. The fact that they're going away from it now, seriously, these leaders, mate, I do not know what they're smoking. But anyway, Ainsley, I cut you off.
That's okay, Kent. Look, it's an absolute hot topic, Spiro. We have had the most number of people on here because obviously they want to hear what you want to say. And there's lots of different things that we can cover. One of the things that a lot of people are concerned about, which is mortgage holders, and as you know, we're obviously dealing with that issue in the courts already. Title deeds being sold off to private corporations. What have you got a comment to that for our listeners? Because that's something that a lot of people who are mortgage holders want to know about. What do they do?
Ask me the question again because you broke off halfway.
Oh, sorry, I've got a bit of a crackly line here. A lot of people are concerned about title deeds and the title deeds being sold off to private corporations. Yes. There's a lot of mortgage holders across Australia are very concerned about, you know, what rights they have if their deeds are sold, if they can't give you back the original deed when you want to sell your house. We're going through that very same issue at the moment, as you know. What have you got to say to our listeners in regard to title deeds? Well,
your title deed was one of the rights that was given to you by our Queen. Before there were certificates of title, there were things called chains of title. What that meant was that since the Queen owned everything in the Commonwealth, she would grant land to people that she favoured for whatever reason. Now, every time she granted land, she put that in a memorialised in a document. That document became an original and was handed to the beneficiary of the land. He passed it on to his children. You don't have any physical proof that you own your land unless you have a certificate of title. And I believe what's happened in the 20 years since I've been away from this world, because I was very deep into this conveyancing situation, obviously in my practice, but I believe they've started to destroy certificates of title in favour of some electronic record. Now, I'm very concerned about that practice because the title is your title. I don't know how to. The title comes with the land. You can't separate the two. How on earth are you going to prove you own your land if they've destroyed the very document that you kept in your safe that was the deed to your land? You know, we've heard it in the movies. Give me the deed to your land. No, I won't. Well, I'll tie you to the railway tracks. And that was the most precious thing. And obviously, if you want to cripple a community, you take away their money and you take away their right, their proof that they own their land. Then who's to say we own anything? And I'm like, I don't know. When it evaporates, which it will, no doubt Mr. Putin will do it, or somebody similar will somehow erase the cloud and all of these records will be gone. Who gave these corporations permission to destroy my title? My advice is get your title back. Sue. Sue for your title. You will win. Have no right to destroy your property. It's your property. It was yours by right. Sue for your title. Get your title back. Get your title back.
Right.
And the other obvious point there too on that subject is those laws were not consented to by the Queen.
No,
so
but this corporation just went and did it, just as I understand it. I mean, I've been asleep for 20 years. I'm Rip Van Winkle, actually. And now I've woken up to this new world, and I remember how many settlements I used to do in my time. We do 100 in a day. The title was as valuable as the bank check that I held in my other hand. You held them like this, title in one hand, bank check in the other, and you swatched them around, and it was as valuable as that $200,000, $500,000, $700,000 bank check that was being handed over. It was like doing a drug deal. You'd slide it across the table and you'd keep your fingers on it, and you wouldn't let them, and you wouldn't let them touch your title until you checked that check wasn't rubber. And then I'd say, right, and then we settled. And that is how precious a certificate of title was. So precious, in fact, they made two. One, called the original, would be recorded permanently at the titles office of every state. The second one goes to you. That was called the duplicate. And they always had to meet whenever you sold your land. So you could type the name of the new person on the back of both. And then you returned the duplicate to you, and the original went back into storage for safe keeping in case your house burnt down or flooded away. We live in a country where that's more likely to happen than not. So you've got to have somewhere safe where your titles are. Now I'm being led to believe that the titles no longer exist. That is an abomination.
Not only do they not exist, the electronic title is stored and owned by a foreign corporation. A foreign corporation. Well, okay, they're all foreign, but let's just pretend that they're not even based in Australia with ASIC.
It's an abomination. I mean, it's my property. Well, give me back my title. Give me back my title and get off my land. They should be the catchphrase of the next anthem. Give me back my title and get off my land. That's it. And we'll all be fine. Give me back my title, get off my land.
Get off my land.
And everybody get on with their business. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Don't complicate it anymore. Everyone can understand that. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. I don't go on your land and tell you what to do. You don't go on mine. And give me back my certificate of title because I entrusted it to you. And if that's the bank manager, then that's who you sue. If it's the titles office, then that's who you sue. And whoever these corporations are, you can ignore them. Their title means nothing. You say, mate, I'm not interested in your fancy paperwork. It's not my Queen's document. It's not a memorial. What the hell is it? It might as well be written on the back of a napkin. It has no more validity than if it's written on the back of a napkin. That's the facts.
Spiros, we have a request. Can we start a class action for all our titles if all people put in money to pay the legal fees and do this as a collective group? Are you up for that?
No, you absolutely should be doing this because it's the smartest way and the easiest way. Marching up and down the street, getting pepper sprayed, it's just not my cup of tea. I'd much rather type up one complaint, file it in the courtroom, wait the appropriate length of time and stand up for a half an hour in front of a judge or a jury and simply explain what's been going on. And let's just see if 12 honest Australians sitting in a jury are going to think the same way we all think tonight, or whether they're all going to say, oh, no, we should let the corporations, control everything. I don't bloody think so. Remember who the real judges are. The courtrooms are not for judges. They're for juries. And that is another big problem we've got, in that people are not taking advantage of the fact that you can have a community judge your actions, your peers, the people you live with, the people you know who know you, not some stranger you have to convince you're telling the truth to. I don't have to convince you guys. I know you guys. We've met. We know each other. You know my strengths and my weaknesses. Most of them. Some of them.
All right,
few.
so let's say this. We all agree it's a good idea. So we get a well-written brief. We brief a really cool silk. We go in, we make application for a jury trial. What's it going to cost? What do we need to raise to put this to bed?
Well, if you okay, well, what did it cost me to sue the most powerful honcho in Victoria? It cost me $130 and 3 days of my life. And some research. Let's call it 10 days of my life and $130. So how much does it cost? How much does it cost to file an action in an appropriate court? Depending where you are, somewhere between a couple of $100 and $1,500, depending on the jurisdiction. If we can afford that, we've just paid the fees for filing. As far as running the case goes, when you're telling the truth, you don't need a big story. You don't need, well, there is no such thing as silk anymore, but if there was, we know what we're talking about. We used to call them silk, the bee's knees of barristers, Queen's Counsel. You don't need a Queen's Counsel. You just need somebody who understands, speaks English clearly, and can put forward a very simple argument. If we're talking about the titles, the argument is pretty straightforward. It's my belonging. They've destroyed it. I want it back. Or they've got it. I want it back. It can't be simpler than that. It's a tort. It's a tort. There's an action there because I've lost something. I've lost some money. I've lost my mum's ring. I pawned it in the pawn shop on the understanding that it would come back to me when I repaid the loan. I repaid the $100 loan, and now he says, "Oh, sorry, I haven't got your mum's ring, but I'll give you a better one." Well, guess what? There's no such thing. I want my mum's ring. I don't want a better one. I don't care how many diamonds you put in it. It'll never replace my ring. And that is what they've done. They've given you a better title in the hope that you'll swallow it and say, "Oh, okay, all's fair." My attitude is, get your title. That's what's worth money. It's the sentimental value. It's the chain of proof of ownership that the Crown recognises. Because when their shit hits the fan, that's all you're going to have left, is that certificate to prove you own your land. The same goes with any action we do, mate. It costs the same. The hardest part is the silk, because they're $5,000 a day. And that's where your money starts to go. And you're like, what? I'm like, yeah, $5,000 a day for as long as they can run a case. I tell you how long I want my cases to run, as long as it takes me to shut up. So if I need to speak for 3 minutes, I don't want it to run any longer than that. 3-minute court case, out we go, because it's costing me money. So but I know guys who'd sit there for all day. I've sat in the courtroom listening to them because they're getting paid $5,000 a day. And they just blab, yap, boring the pants out of reading everything with the Nth degree for no good reason other than to clock up $5,000 for their day. So my advice would be issue proceedings, keep them simple, focus on one thing, and, a couple of $1,000. Honestly, if everyone put in $1, we'd be okay. We'd get that problem out of the way. Bring me the next one.
So Spiros, we've got quite a few people in the chat that are very keen to do that. Is it possible to get that underway as a class action, or would you sue individually?
No, any way they want. That's why we're talking. We're talking to get people enlivened because, more of me need to get out there. I shouldn't be the only one. I'm lucky I got you guys because you get out to 1,000, 100,000, a million viewers. I'm one bloke. I get to one client a day. So yes, anybody who wants to address any of this nonsense, can contact you guys, and then you know what you'll do. You'll contact the litigation department, and you know where that leads.
Yep, definitely. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Right.
Or in the courts already and taking this issue on already. So it's very, very exciting. Look, before we finish tonight's show, we've got about 5 minutes left or so, but I'm really, really keen to find out and hear a little bit more, as some people are. We've heard of this case called the Pridgeon case, and how Dr. Pridgeon lost his license through APRA, who we understand has no lawful way of actually taking away a doctor's license. And so he got his license back, I understand. Can you just share with our listeners tonight who may not be familiar with that case, the importance of what that case could do for any potential doctor that maybe isn't speaking up because they think they're going to lose their license through APRA?
Yes, well, a couple of things. Let's start. First thing, quickly, a doctor gets his doctorate from a university. Only that university can take it away. So let's get that straight. You're always a doctor. You can't lose your credentials as a doctor. But what doctors did a while ago is they thought they formed an organization of peers, and they called it APRA. What they didn't realize is that somebody else was pulling the strings, and that APRA was really nothing more than a control center to keep an eye on the doctors. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. We're not going into that conversation tonight. Let's focus. A doctor is always a doctor, regardless of what anybody says. Can't take that away from them. But they registered with this crowd called APRA and the medical board, the different one in each state, I think. Now, when they registered, APRA believed that they controlled their registration and that they had the ability to take away their registration. The problem for the doctor is that when they got involved with APRA, they bought all of the benefits, which are Medicare, scripts, kickbacks. I mean, it's a business. Being a doctor is a business. So whilst they can take away, when they take away your practicing license, all they're really doing is they're plugging you out of the system. They're saying, you can't play in our sandbox anymore. It doesn't take away their right to be a doctor or the fact that they are a doctor. However, the court case ran like this. APRA believed they could just take away your license without a court case. Unfortunately for them, that's wrong on 2 points. It's wrong because it's wrong in common law, because you can't take away something from somebody without a court case. Nothing. Not your land, not your car, not your dog, not your children. Nothing can be taken away from you without having it heard in a courtroom. That's the primary law, common law. And secondly, they thought that because they wrote their act in such a way, they thought that act gave them authority to do it. They were wrong. Pridgeon had his license taken away from him without the right of a trial. He went to court, Supreme Court, he argued that was wrong. You're not allowed to take away something that's mine without giving me a chance to defend myself. The court agreed with him. They appealed it. It went to a full court of 3 judges, and all 3 judges upheld the original ruling. So Pridgeon established in his own way, or the Pridgeon case established in his own way, that arbitrarily taking something from somebody is not on. Nobody can take something from you just because they say they can. We've given that power to the judiciary. We've given that power to the courts. We haven't given that power to anybody else. And that's essentially what, in the simplest way, and as correctly as I can explain it, that's what happened with Pridgeon. He argued they had no right to do it. He was right. The courts agreed. And that's it. It's now set as a precedent, and a very powerful precedent, that at least APRA needs to think twice before they go arbitrarily snatching licenses.
So which brings us to the point that a doctor who is informed of the Pridgeon case and has had their license suspended by APRA and refuses to use the Pridgeon case to get their license back with APRA is either an imbecilic moron, or they're working an angle to put all the other doctors into fear to say, oh, no, I couldn't get my license back. And so don't call out people that say Dr. William Bay is controlled opposition. Look at the evidence, okay, and make your own decision whether it is controlled opposition. Don't get in there and say, oh, you're dividing the freedom movement. If you want to divide the freedom movement, the best and fastest way to do it is to let stuff like that fester. You call it out, you fix it, because that's why we're in the mess, people, because we stop fixing our own messes. So you fix it up and you say, right, that's done, let's move on.
Couldn't agree with you more. And those, I've got more to talk to you about that, but I've been fascinated tonight. And I think we've got a lot of work to get done. A lot of work to get done. Spiros, thank you so much for coming in tonight, and thank you so much for your friendship and your guidance for this country. We need you, and we need 1,000 more like you. I'm not sure that the mold is still working, mate. Yeah, we've got to get behind you, and we've got to take your example. And thank you for standing up at work, and thanks for your integrity.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I hope I've been of some benefit this evening.
Thanks, Spiros. We really appreciate it, mate. It's these simple actions by good people create great hope through the community, and hope's contagious, and that's what we need. Is that hope that we're going to succeed. I know we're going to succeed, right? This is the point in history when we win, when we make the difference. But we don't need 1,000, we only need 300.
Okay, 300,000. Love it. I love your math. I love it.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're only taking over the world. It's only 300. It's not as if we're going after a girl. Then we need 1,000.
Right.
1,000 chips. If women are involved, 1,000 chips.
Excellent. Lance, Kent, thank you for joining me. Spiro, you're an absolute bloody legend, mate, and we are so thrilled to have you on our side. And look, I think you've inspired a lot of people tonight. The chat box has been absolutely going off. We will probably have to have you back again, because I know everyone is keen to learn more. Everyone who's listening tonight, I know you've been super excited about potential class actions for the title deeds. It is something that we're currently working on at the moment through personal experience. So stay tuned. Please tap into, pardon the pun, our Telegram channel. Follow the discussion chat. As an executive team and with Spiro's help, we'll have a chat about this, of how we proceed further, and then we'll give you further information of what to do and where we go from here. So please stay tuned, and thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Triple Tap. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Good night, everyone.
Peace.
All right.